but there is a real childlike joy that is just, it's so ever present in Buddy's life, in his embodiment of that, in a world that has forgotten that or doesn't value that or is entirely set upon extinguishing that or maybe prophetizing those types of things, produces this comedic tension throughout the entire thing. And to not be afraid that, there's something pure about that, but there is a childlike joy that maybe this season of Christmas should draw out of us.
Yeah.
And we shouldn't be afraid to lean into. So what is it about the kind of like childlike joy that is often arresting or like shocking for so many people in whatever form it takes? And in this movie, it's, like I said, ever present. But what is it about that childlike joy that is either shocking or even attractive?
Yeah, it's funny that you say attractive. I think it's attractive to some, but I think largely it's disdained in ways. Like the wisdom of the age seems to be one of like sarcasm and pessimism. But in people who are like happy and optimistic and kind of joyful are kind of scoffed at or like, dismissed because it's just not the ethos in which people.
I mean, they're looked down upon. Like, oh, you're so simple.
Yeah. But it's funny because that's I don't know. To speak historically about that, I don't know, but perhaps it's always been that way in some ways. That like the simplicity of things is regarded as simple, like simple-minded, kind of thing. But as you were saying, talking about like the joy and the simplicity of joy, it reminded me of the fact I was thinking about the seasons of the church and the liturgical seasons and Advent and Christmas as compared to the other seasons, ordinary time, Lent, Easter, et cetera, et cetera. And it's true, it is the case that like the incarnation Christmas is, I think, the simplest of things, even just in the setting, like the incarnation that God becomes man. We all know the story, born in a stable in these simple, humble beginnings. Right. It's all, there isn't like the Christmas liturgies, you think of them as compared to like Holy Week. It's
my gosh.
They're night and day, just like.
It's so complex and intricate and beautiful, but very.
Yeah, it's its own beauty and that sort of thing. So it seems like inherent in the mystery of the incarnation and Christmas, that there is a simplicity. And I think we see that highlighted in our own experience with the contrary reality of like the consumerism around Christmas and that sort of thing where, we all kind of partake in it, but we often all also criticize it. It's like, oh, we're doing too much or we're spending too much or like, the reason for the season, like all these kind of things. We know that it's kind of, when it gets to be too much, too complicated, too this, too that, we feel it. So I think that's all to say that again, it's this like relatability. Like even if we have had and are having an insanely busy Christmas season and shopping and parties and this and that and that and that, we still recognize like there's something about the simplicity and the joy of Christmas that is, in that it's a contagion in the best sort of way. It's like we want to be part of that. We want to have that experience. And in the movie then, coming back to the movie, it's that reality is what is kind of like brought to the fore in the setting of the movie.
Yes.
And this like grown man who's dressed like an elf, who's like very much like a child, who has no concept of how the world actually works and and so it's a different way of highlighting it, but it's again getting to the same reality that we are all kind of itching for, and we see it in him. And I think what the movie does in a good way to highlight it is that it puts Buddy in stark contrast to the rest of the world. So the reality of that simplicity, of that need for that, it's just like, he's like wearing a not neon, but like a green elf outfit against like the concrete gray jungle of New York City. Like even just like he just stands out against the backdrop of everything else.
Father Jacob Bertrand.
Father Gregory.
A Dominican, a Franciscan, and a Jesuit walk into a bar. One of them asks the audience to subscribe. That's not a joke. Any ways you can improve upon it?
Just don't tell jokes.
Right. This is not a joke. Please subscribe. Cheers.